Good afternoon, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Much of what I wanted to say, the thunder has been stolen by my two predecessors at the podium. But I shall try and stick to the basics. I retired as Spread Secretary in the RNAW in 2005. So I'll try and bring some new thought process into the subject because most of my 38 years of service was spent in the darkness away from light as the service dictated us to be. And in the last 5 years, I have understood what the corporate world looks like, what are its requirements, where is the catch, where are the blind spots. I will just try and not test your patience too long, but I'm just trying to take you through 2 or 3 points that we all need to know, not as businessmen, but not as entrepreneurs, but as citizens of this country. There are two challenges that we face in India today as far as national security is concerned. As Rajan mentioned, there is no codified document. Right from 1947 to 2015, we have gone on in an ad hoc manner without trying to tell the country or the world as to what are the red lines, what is it that India can do, India cannot do, and where are our non-negotiable or negotiable objectives and interests. So national security in India has never been put in the form of a document. But as I have seen over the years, there are two challenges that we face. The first is that our institutions of governance are based on sector-specific knowledge and sector-specific management systems. Evidence points out that these systems are unable to collaborate in delivering multidisciplinary and multi-sectoral responses to national challenges. We have seen right in 1965, in 1962, 1965, 1971, the Kargil conflict, that the country was operating its national security instruments in 2 or 3 different methods. As a result, we did not have one unified approach because each of the agency or the department was trying to protect its turf. Now I believe that the Ministry of Home Affairs or the Ministry of Defense can no longer be independent variables. They have to be part of the whole. They have to integrate their systems into the general requirements of national security. The second challenge, ladies and gentlemen, in my view, lies in the enduring notion of national security, which we need to understand in a comprehensive sense rather than in narrow military terms. National security is no longer, I think, in the purview of the Ministry of Defense, because national security can still go across the borders of the country. It can still come within the hinterland. So this has resulted in the need to create systems where we have cross-cutting, where we have different ministries and different departments acting in tandem. We share our synergies, we share technology, we share information, we share manpower. Somebody going from the Ministry of External Affairs to the Ministry of Defense and vice versa brings about bigger understanding, better understanding of the systems that we tend to run. And finally, India is not hugely or largely a prosperous country or a highly developed country. We have constraints of funds, so we need to use most of our resources in a very judicial manner, ensuring that we meet the national cause in a very, very focused manner. Having come prepared that I would face my colleagues in the business sector, I think there is a greater need today for the corporate world, or the private sector, or the business community to play a leading role in national security culture or in the national security strategy. You find throughout in the United States, whenever the US had a requirement, you had a huge military industrial complex which was helping the government in trying to do the kind of things the government required, bring the best technologies to the table, and the government would bring its problems as if I require this technology, I don't have this technology. Let us sit down together and match our total resources. So I think we need to understand that national security is no longer an issue which the government in Delhi deals. It affects all of us. It affects the industry, it affects the public sector, it affects the private sector. It affects the entire economy. Unless we don't look at it in a wholesome manner, we are likely to miss something somewhere. I'm conscious of the fact that today's subject, my subject, deals with what are the opportunities in internal security. My colleague Rajan spoke about the various requirements that are already available and what is it that we need to look beyond the curve or look towards the horizon. The most simple thing, ladies and gentlemen, I understand that our opportunities lie in the states and provinces of India. The central government, by virtue of its huge establishment, has access to some of the finest technologies that it requires in the prosecution of its responsibilities. Today, the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Home have the best possible technologies available to them because they understand the need of putting together a maximum grid to ensure safety and security at all times. But as has been said, in our constitutional arrangement, law and order is vested in the state governments. And the state governments are the first responders to any events that have an impact on law and order, public safety, and security in its jurisdiction. Therefore, the state police forces are the service providers in all such cases. Where there is a necessity, when things seem to be getting out of hand, the central government steps in as aid to civil power with the kind of resources it feels are necessary and draws it from its own pool or from the other ministries concerned. So in saying this, I would feel that if you look around in the 28 states and 9 union territories, we have some enormous opportunities that are available.